Super Mario Galaxy is more than a game. Super Mario Galaxy is unique. It exudes this feeling, this atmospheric brilliance. It's homely but simultaneously lonely. It is bombastic but melodramatic. It is magnificent, tremendous and loud, but also shows restraint and exhibits a unique kind of silence. A sadness. Super Mario as a series is the pure distillation of video games. Be free, have fun, beat the game, and move on. Mario doesn't try to create believable, tangible worlds. Mario isn't fussed about crafting a universe dripping with atmosphere. Mario isn't bothered to sew its worlds together to fabricate an immersive experience. Super Mario is what your grandmother thinks video games are, toys on the TV. And while there's absolutely nothing wrong with toys on the TV, I find it pertinent to express that the ambition of Super Mario rarely surpasses that of toys on the TV. That's what it was in Super Mario Bros. 1, that's what it is in some of the greatest games ever made. But that's how Super Mario Galaxy is so special. It isn't trying to be just a game. Super Mario Galaxy is trying to be that and so much more. You're listening to the Saka Says Retrospective on a truly unique, special, one-of-a-kind experience. This is the Super Mario Galaxy Retrospective. The Super Mario that dared to be more. Super Mario had been living in his own shadow since Super Mario 64, the game that changed everything for everyone. The game that set the new standard for 3D game development going forward. How could Nintendo possibly follow up one of the greatest games of all time, and the pioneer of its own new subgenre, the 3D platformer? Logic would dictate the easiest way to follow up 64 would simply be a Super Mario 64 2. Nintendo in 1998 would agree with that logic. The possibility of a Super Mario 64 2 was first proposed by legendary game designer Shigeru Miyamoto in January of 1997, who colloquially dubbed the game Super Mario 128. This rumoured expansion and sequel to Super Mario 64 was said to be developed for the 64 disk drive, or 64DD, but was cancelled due to the 64DD's abysmal sale figures. So it was in 1998, not 1 year after it had been conceived, Super Mario 128 seemed to be dead in the water, existing more or less as front-page fodder for gaming magazines. But not for long. In August of 2000, Nintendo showed off a tech demo called Super Mario 128 at the Space World Expo. This tech demo was built to show off the power of the upcoming Nintendo GameCube. In the demo, 128 Marios were simultaneously rendered, with each individual Mario performing individual tasks. However, the most impressive thing about this demo was the implementation of sphere walking. The circular platform all 128 Marios stood on would shift, creating slopes and spheres for the Marios to run up and around on. This was more than a tech demo, this was a competent physics engine. Needless to say, the press were impressed. Video game magazine editors smacked their lips at the potential front page material this tech demo would serve as. Mysteriously enough, Super Mario 128 would disappear after the Space World Expo. In Space World of 2001, a year later, Nintendo would show off Super Mario Sunshine, a game that was most certainly not Super Mario 128, hell, let alone 64 2. This was an all-new game, and fans were divided. What was this water jetpack gun thing, and what was it doing on Mario's back? Internally, Nintendo were at odds with themselves as to what to do with Super Mario. Yoshiaki Koizumi of Super Mario Odyssey fame wanted to tackle Super Mario 128 on the GameCube, but soon found the hardware too restrictive for him to execute his creative vision. Nintendo EAD gave up on Super Mario 128 and opted to go in an entirely other direction with Super Mario Sunshine. Sunshine retained many of 64's design elements but made many controversial changes. Sunshine was initially lauded by critics but has aged like milk. I loved and still love Sunshine for its unique setting and immersive qualities, but those who put less stock than I in setting an atmosphere felt let down by the supposed successor to Super Mario 64. Platforming was de-emphasized and the game's difficulty wildly swung between Baby's First Mario and Please God Make It End. And not in a fair way by any stretch of the imagination. Mario's movement was tuned for snappy, fast, flexible sandbox exploration, so when he was thrown into a gauntlet without his jetpack failsafe, it was like controlling a Bugatti Veyron through a dirt rally. Fans were not satiated. Journalists and fans alike would plague Nintendo executives, asking if Super Mario 128 was even real. In 2003, George Harrison, then of Nintendo of America, said that Mario 128 may not appear on the GameCube at all. Yoshiaki Koizumi would soon join the team at EAD Tokyo, who, after finishing up Sunshine, were currently working on Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Koizumi and Miyamoto never entirely gave up on Super Mario 128. In 2004, Miyamoto asked Koizumi to prepare a prototype implementing the sphere walking of 128 for the then codenamed Nintendo Revolution, now known as the Wii.
You want a revolution? Well, we've got one.
That same year, Miyamoto would again stoke the fire that was Mario 128 by revealing that the project was still in development. But the year came and went and nothing new was shown. Behind the scenes, things were starting to look dicey for Mario 128. Koichi Hayashida, who has played a pivotal role in every 3D Mario since Sunshine, was vehemently against the idea of spherical platforms. He was adamant that it would be a terrible fit. One can certainly empathize. If Mario was all about platforming, why would one take away his ability to fall? What's more, how could they possibly contextualize Mario's failure to follow the laws of gravity? Takao Shimizu, eventual producer of Galaxy, said he felt a sense of danger around the project. Super Mario 128 was internally divisive, to say the least. Koizumi and his team were given 3 months to prepare a prototype to show Miyamoto, who would then present it to Satoru Iwata should it satisfy him. Time was of the essence, and the going was rough, to say the least. But then, it clicked. What if the spheres weren't just ambiguous floating orbs? What if Mario's disobedience of the laws of physics was contextual? What if the game was set in space? Suddenly, more and more of the team at EAD were coming around to Mario 128. Seeing as Mario's main form of attack, jumping on things, was a little more difficult to pull off in areas where gravity was reversed or centered on spheres, the spin attack was introduced. Miyamoto, Koizumi, and the rest of the team researched how people played 3D games and came to the somewhat obvious conclusion that one spends most of their time running around. The team asked themselves why they should halt that forward momentum by instigating a jump, and instead chose to give Mario an attack that he could use directly out of a run. The spin would also be used to add depth to the game's movement mechanics, allowing a high skill ceiling and interesting combinations with other jumps. In 2005, Reggie Fils-Aimé, then president of Nintendo of America, told the press that Mario 128 would be shown at that year's E3 Expo. This did not come to pass. When questioned if the project was even real, Reggie simply replied that he could only show what Mr. Miyamoto gave him to show. That same year, Miyamoto finally lifted the lid on Mario 128. He spoke of how its engine had been used in development of games like Pikmin, and what the public were referring to as Mario 128 would appear on the Revolution under a new name. Initially, Mario 128 was a difficult game, requiring precise platforming and plenty of concentration. Funnily enough, this difficulty was in spite of the fact that Mario had 8 health points, just like in Sunshine and 64. When consulted, Iwata said that the game should be fun first and foremost. He wanted 128 to appeal to anyone and everyone. Iwata had noted that many people don't finish the games that they buy. He did not want 128 to be relegated to becoming a collector's ornament. As such, the game's difficulty was toned down dramatically. The player would still have 8 health points, but 1-ups and health pickups would be littered throughout the stage. The amount of enemies per stage was toned down. Obstacles ceased to be obstacles and became harmless little hurdles to the player. Checkpoints were added so that the player needn't ever return to the beginning of the level on death, a design element entirely new to 128. To help the player, a secondary assist mode was implemented, wherein a second player could control a cursor but have far more influence on the game than in the final build. Miyamoto saw this and was disgusted. He agreed the original build was too difficult, but said that a Mario game should never be this easy. To balance the game out, Mario was given 3 health points instead of 8, 1-ups would still be littered throughout the place, and enemies put up a decent fight, with many of them requiring 2 hits. The 2-player mode remained, but the second player's influence was toned down dramatically. Super Mario 128 was soon given an official codename in Super Mario Or, likely standing for Revolution. Despite its rocky start, it was beginning to look like EAD Tokyo had something special on their hands. The team were growing in confidence. As with the gameplay, Super Mario Or's soundtrack had a rocky start. Mahito Yokota was given the reins to Mario Or's soundtrack and, naturally as anyone in his position would, immediately consulted legendary composer Koji Kondo. Yokota hypothesized that Kondo took inspiration from Latin music, but Kondo explicitly stated that he never consciously did. Yokota feared that his soundtrack would stand out too much in comparison to Kondo's work, so he set out with deliberate intent to emulate Kondo's style. Yokota requested of Miyamoto a full orchestra, and after much convincing, he was given the go-ahead. Yokota prepared his main theme, which he described as somewhat pop-esque but with a 90s space-age vibe. Koizumi approved of the theme, but Kondo was not impressed. He vehemently disagreed with Koizumi and said that Mario was not cute and poppy, but rather cool. Kondo composed the piece now known as Good Egg Galaxy to illustrate this point, and Miyamoto vastly preferred the work of Kondo's to that of Yokota's. Yokota nearly quit his job, but was reassured by legendary composer Kondo that he would have more than enough time to get it right. Feeling reinvigorated, Yokota got back to work. Ironically, now that Yokota stopped trying to emulate Kondo and take a pop angle with Mario, his work dramatically improved. Free from the shackles of expectation, Yokota composed an original orchestral soundtrack that would go down in history as one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. The soundtrack's sheer scope is something to marvel. It is as varied as it is excellent. We'll go in depth to the soundtrack later, but spoiler alert, it's f***ing incredible. Come 2006, Nintendo were at long last ready to show off what was first Super Mario 128, then Super Mario Or, and was finally Super Mario Galaxy! It was a game 10 years in the making. From its humble beginnings as Mario 128 in 1997 to 2007, its triumphant final form, Super Mario Galaxy. And what a final form it was. I would like to propose that there are 2 types of video game players. There are those who are actively and presently aware that they are playing a video game and are enjoying it for what it is, a game. Then there are those who use video games as a form of escapism, people who like to forget that they are playing a game and are instead stepping into an alternative universe. People in Group 2 appreciate immersion and atmosphere far more than people in Group 1. People in Group 1 vastly prefer good, tight design and engaging mechanics to immersion or atmosphere. This isn't black and white, however. It is possible to be in between 2 camps. I consider myself extrinsically motivated, a Group 2er if you will, and yet I adore both Minecraft and Breath of the Wild for their sandbox elements. Games made for Group 1ers can appeal to Group 2ers and vice versa. That said, if you are in Group 1, I would stake my bank account on the fact that you appreciate Galaxy's sequel more than the original. There are, quite frankly, better levels, mechanics that are expanded upon, and more of a challenge. But if you, like me, are in Group 2, you'd almost certainly value the original over its sequel. Galaxy 1, which I will continue to refer to as just Galaxy from here on in, is positively dripping in atmosphere, where Galaxy 2 lacks world feel and immersion. Super Mario Galaxy does its absolute best to appeal to the players of Group 2, almost to the detriment of the values of Group 1. To illustrate, take the Comet Observatory for example. For those of us Group 2ers, the Comet Observatory serves multiple purposes. First of all, it gives contextual meaning to the power stars. No longer are they a random nebulous power source that just opens doors. No longer are they nothing more than the goalposts at the end of a level. Instead, they are fuel for this observatory, fuel that is needed to travel to the centre of the universe. Secondly, it gives logical, contextual meaning to the level select. Instead of choosing levels from a static world overview map, you use the observatory to, well, observe other planets from afar. Finally, it gives the player extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation would be motivation to finish the game because you want to beat it. Extrinsic motivation is required to stimulate people in Group 2. We are not inherently driven to complete for the sake of completion. Bringing life, light and joy back to the home of your new companions makes for excellent extrinsic motivation. There is a satisfaction to fixing up the observatory. I don't mean to offend, merely to illustrate the dichotomy between the two groups. Look at Nitro Rat's take on Galaxy. He finds the storybook sequence, the Comet Observatory and the wild ending as unnecessary dressing on an otherwise excellent salad. King K, on the other hand, thinks that the salad is nothing without the excellent dressing, hence why he likes Galaxy more than any other 3D Mario. Its atmosphere. Nitro Rad is a Group 1er and King K is a Group 2er, like myself. Galaxy is particularly excellent to me because of its insistence on providing context. Mario often appeals more to those who are intrinsically motivated, those who want a challenge, those who want to collect everything, and those who are present in the moment as they play. For the intrinsically motivated, context is irrelevant, it's just gravy. Floating platforms and flying objects that float around just cause is enough of a reason. As long as the game is fun, that's all that matters. Galaxy certainly is fun, but it's not a refined, linear, course-clear experience. It's a melding of the two Super Mario ideologies, merging exploratory sections with linear platforming. In this sense, it makes sense that intrinsically motivated folk find many of Galaxy's atmosphere-building elements tedious. Intrinsically motivated people prefer Galaxy 2's take. Here's a level, jump on some guys, now go to the next one. No dressing, no gravy, no sauce, just pure video game action. Mario 3D World is a far better game for those with intrinsic motivation and those who care little for atmospheric or extrinsic motivation. 3D World lacks any semblance of plot, feel, or any tangibility to its world. It is quite simply a hodgepodge of levels, but that isn't a diss. It has no dressing whatsoever, but by God is it the best salad on earth. It's got the best level design of any Super Mario ever, if you ask me, and the added movement options in the Switch remaster make it even better than it already was. But it's lacking in atmosphere. It's a game, it's toys on the TV, and nothing more. And for that reason, it does not resonate with the extrinsically motivated, like me, or like King K. We crave context. We need dressing to tolerate a salad. This is where Galaxy differs. I don't play Galaxy because of its excellent levels or its tight, refined gameplay. I play Galaxy because of its cinematic flair, its contextual logic, its unparalleled world feel, its special, secret salad dressing. That is what sets Galaxy apart from all the other Super Mario entries. So now that I've explained my hypothesis, I'd like to illustrate with a couple of examples just how contextually sound Super Mario Galaxy is. As previously mentioned, the observatory itself is crucial. It provides contextual logic to the entire adventure. Contrast that to the overworld map of, say, a 3D world. In 3D world, you just kind of walk around a weird old world and jump into weird little dioramas. It's very gamey. In Galaxy, you aren't just selecting levels, you're observing planets from an observatory. In 3D world, objects just kind of float around. Platforms move unpredictably, platforms are spherical or cuboid shaped just 'cause. Nothing is given contextual meaning. Galaxy spheres are planetoids because we're in space. The floating objects in Space Junk Galaxy are literal pieces of floating space debris that you jump between. The space setting makes everything make sense. Massive warships and castles aren't just floating around an otherwise peaceful world, but occupy the space of an evil tyrant who wants to rule the galaxy with an iron fist. The theme of space removes the shackles from the developers. They can create planets made of lava because in real-life space, there are stars, such as suns. In 3D world, lava levels exist just because they do, and that's all the reason for their existence. It's common knowledge that both Retro Studios' Donkey Kong Country games give context to each individual 2D platform. Super Mario Galaxy does the exact same, but in 3D. Take Super Mario Sunshine's Floodless levels for example. These are 3D platforming gauntlets with no ties to the tropical theme. They exist in nebulous space where objects can float and fly around and logic doesn't exist. Those levels make no sense in Sunshine, but if you put those levels into Galaxy, then suddenly they make all the sense in the world, because we are in nebulous space already. If you kill a boss in 3D World, it unlocks a door to the flagpole that marks the end of the level, meaning you get to progress to the next world. If you kill a boss in Galaxy, it breaks into pieces and drops a rare lucrative Grand Star. This Grand Star was used to give the boss superpowered abilities. Grand Stars were used by the game's antagonist, Bowser, to power giant mechs or fiery monsters. Once you reclaim that Grand Star, you can repurpose it to power up the Observatory. Ergo, you have more fuel. Ergo, you can go to other planets to get more stars. Ergo, you're one step closer to the game's climactic final battle. Contextual logic means everything and can make or break a game for me. For another example, take King Caliente. When you first encounter this boss enemy, he is somewhat weak and you easily dispose of him and claim a regular star. You presume that that's that. He's gone and you move on and forget he even existed. King Caliente returns with a fiery vengeance, however, in the game's penultimate boss fight. This time Bowser Jr. is present, reintroducing you to the king gloating, then leaving the king to deal with you. This time the fight is more difficult, not because it's the end of a video game and he needs to be more difficult just cause. No, King Caliente is more powerful because now, instead of being powered up by a regular star, Bowser Jr. injected into him the power of a Grand Star. This makes sense. We subconsciously connect the dots that Bowser Jr. found a defeated King Caliente and revived him with the power of the Grand Star, Frankenstein style, and made him into a weapon for him to wield against you, the player. Everything is contextually logical. I hate to constantly draw parallels to 3D World, but it's crucial when discussing what a monumental achievement Galaxy was. In 3D World, bosses come back to life just cause. The same boss is more difficult this time, just cause. Everything happens just because it's a video game, and that's how these things work. Galaxy isn't like that. Galaxy applies contextual logic to everything. It does its utmost to immerse you in its world. Take the antagonist, for example. In many a Mario, the King Koopa Bowser kidnaps the princess and that's it. No reason given, he just does. Before we even start the game, there is backstory in regards to Bowser's involvement in the plot. Bowser ambushes the Comet Observatory we spent the rest of the game restoring, stealing all of its power stars. Bowser is almost like Thanos from the Avengers. He goes around pillaging planets and murdering millions. He enslaves aliens to do his bidding and he steals power stars. And why does he do all this? Because he is, quite frankly, an overblown control freak. He wants to create his own galactic empire and rule over it with an iron fist. And how does Mario get involved with Bowser's space endeavours? Well, who better to sit alongside Mario's arch-nemesis than Peach, who Bowser objectifies? Bowser sees Peach as nothing more than a trophy, another feather in his galactic cap. Bowser behaves in a manner that makes sense. He's a tyrant. Not only that, but our protagonist Mario isn't one-dimensional. He doesn't just want to save the princess, he wants to restore the Comet Observatory. He wants to restore peace to the galaxy by overthrowing a tyrant who has torn that peace and tranquility to shreds. There is an actual plot with characters that have motivations. Rosalina is a new character to the series who has an entire storybook's worth of development. Her tale is both tragic and inspiring, and gives more of that all-important context and immersion. If dressing is important to you in a salad, then Galaxy's salad reigns supreme. It gives contextual meaning to everything. If you don't need context, I envy you, as you probably like video games a whole lot more than I do. But I love when a game gives contextual meaning. It lends to an overall immersion and creates a place I can escape to. To me, the contextual logic Galaxy brings to the table trumps quality level design every day of the week. Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of my favourite games of all time. This really should come as no surprise coming out of the last chapter. There's nothing I value more than immersion and contextual logic, and there's nothing that immerses me more into a game world than excellent cinematography. If I were to rank the opening moments of all video games ever, bearing in mind that I'm too young to have played all the classics, residing in the ever so elusive S tier would be The Last of Us Part 1, Red Dead Redemption 2's Snowy Tundra, Final Fantasy VII Remake's Bombing Mission, and, you guessed it, Super Mario Galaxy's Star Festival. What is the common denominator between these four? Two words: cinematic flair. When games try to be movies, there are only ever two results. One, they look pretentious and stupid and fall flat on their arse, or two, they immediately immerse and invest us in their world. Take a wild guess which camp Super Mario Galaxy falls into. We open with a letter from the princess, a little throwback to Super Mario 64, telling us that there's a party at the castle and we're invited. Mario runs, his arms outstretched like a plane's wings before he triumphantly jumps into the air. The mustached man exudes this excitement, his enthusiasm is tangible. We share that enthusiastic, childlike whimsy. We are given control of Super Mario and we run towards the castle with the symphonic Star Festival imbuing in this night a positivity, an enthusiasm, a dosage of joy. The music burrows its way into our hearts and fills us with unadulterated happiness. Then, suddenly, it stops. No music, black screen, silence. Then... Suddenly we hear stringed instruments ominously echoing a marching beat, and across the horizon, flying airships equipped with weapons of mass destruction descend on the kingdom. The camera pans around, showing the havoc caused by the sudden invasion. When the tower falls, the camera shakes as if it were impacted by the destruction. The camera comes down to Mario's perspective, and we see firsthand the destruction being wreaked upon the kingdom. From a handheld camera perspective, Mario stumbles through the rubble, with toads dropping like flies all around him. Fires burn bright, and meteors rain down from the sky, with each thud shaking the very ground Mario walks on. We feel his mortality, we feel like he is in genuine danger. Soon the triumphant chorus of brass kicks into gear and we see our antagonist for the first time. Bowser is known for being the butt of many a joke, but here he is, in a word, menacing. He's monstrous. He produces a guttural growl and declares that the party is officially over, with steam hissing out of his fire-breathing nostrils. He looks dangerous, hideous, and absolutely monstrous. He looks like a threat. Peach's castle is lifted into space by a UFO-like spacecraft. For a brief moment, the grand orchestral arrangement of Bowser's theme pauses as if to appreciate the magnitude of this moment. We are only just realizing the scope of what is happening before the brass kicks in again and Mario is ambushed by a Magikarp blasting away into space. Then, after the most brutal of gut punches, a piano melody acts as a deep breath in, accompanied by a slow zooming out, and suddenly the scope of our predicament feels overbearing. Each shot in the opening of Mario Galaxy oozes this cinematic quality few games can dream of achieving. It covers every base, from grand epic moments worthy of Mission Impossible to sudden loneliness more befitting of an art house flick. Super Mario Galaxy sums up the entire game in its opening moments, a grand epic galactic adventure tinged with sadness, loneliness, and empathy. Super Mario Galaxy's opening is absolutely crucial. It sets the tone for the entire rest of the game. Imagine if the game just opened here. The game wouldn't be half as good. Or imagine it opened like a goofy new Super Mario Bros. It would fall flat on its face. This opening cinematic establishes our goal, our antagonist, the setting, the tone, the protagonist, an atmosphere, gives us motivation and immerses us into Mario's plight. We want to help. and all of this is done in exactly 5 minutes and 33 seconds. Sprinkled throughout the game are little cinematic moments that go a long way. Something Mario Galaxy loves to do is go into a letterbox style every time you speak to an NPC or go into a cutscene. Famously, Rockstar Games would shoot Red Dead Redemption 2 entirely in letterbox form for its cutscenes, but Super Mario Galaxy was doing this back in 2007, albeit to a much lesser extent. This little touch adds that much more cinematic flair to regular encounters. Every time you got a star or hit the flagpole in the past, a jolly little jingle would play and Mario might do a little jump for joy. Collecting stars or shines was like collecting a school sports day medal. In Mario Galaxy, when you get a star you feel like you won the f***ing Oscars. And that's not even talking about Grand Stars. Getting a Grand Star is like being handed a Nobel Peace Prize doused in holy water by the f***ing Pope. Oh, I can't say that. The triumphant music, Mario's little flight around the star before the ultimate victorious declaration that you got a star, never gets less awe-inspiring. Then there's the Bowser encounters. For once, the antagonist of a Super Mario feels like a threat. The battle begins with a face-off, percussion playing ominously in the background. Bowser declares his intent to brutally murder you, and then the orchestra kicks off into full flow, and it is nothing short of magnificent cinematic excellence. The arrangement is purely instrumental, but when Bowser becomes vulnerable, a choir is introduced to the theme, ratcheting up the pressure. In stark contrast to the regular Mario affair, facing Bowser feels threatening. Each encounter feels like it was ripped out of an Avengers movie finale. Then, there is the final encounter in the center of the universe. The Comet Observatory flies like a spaceship right into the center, barreling its way through a fleet of airships, all the while the orchestra is firing on all cylinders, an epic, hype-inducing remix of Gusty Garden Galaxy. Rosalina, the silent space princess, utters her only 2 voice lines in the entire game.
Go, Mario!
Her brevity and silence only makes this delivery feel all the more emphatic. Then you descend and you face down the antagonist of the story for the last time, and by God, does the music let you know that this is the finale. Battle starts as all other battles do, a face down between our protagonist and his nemesis. This time, Bowser's galactic reactor sits ominously behind him, subliminally transmitting the urgency of the situation. This is it. All or nothing. Then once again the battle begins and the orchestra roars to life. Like previously when Bowser is vulnerable, the choir kicks in. The stakes are at an all-time high. Every decision you make feels important, each movement deliberate, each jump monumental. The battle is simply cinematic magnificence. I would be remiss not to talk about Galaxy's excellent and actually somewhat mature ending. It is at first triumphant. You see Mario spin against Bowser 3 times in an action replay before seeing him fall into his galactic reactor. You grab the Grand Star and soar out of the castle with Peach by your side. Kondo's Good Egg plays triumphantly as the pair soar away. But then, suddenly, we cut to Bowser stumbling awkwardly as his galactic reactor begins to implode. Watching him stumble and trip through the molten lava almost makes you feel a modicum of empathy towards him. Then, everything goes wrong. Suddenly, Bowser's reactor collapses in on itself, creating a black hole. The only way to stop this black hole from destroying the universe is for the Lumas to all sacrifice themselves to create a supernova that will reset the universe. That final scene where Mario waves goodbye to his companion Luma is heartbreaking. The music, Luma's theme, digs its way into your heart and just rips and tears at your heartstrings. Rosalina then waxes philosophical at you for a bit, and Mario celebrates the creation of a new galaxy. This was most likely done to set up a DLC pack titled Super Mario More, but More ended up turning into Galaxy 2. Super Mario Galaxy is bizarrely cinematic for a Mario game. Mario's all about running around and jumping on guys, but this cinematic, almost mature feeling that Galaxy has always resonated with me, even as a kid. When I was only 7 years old playing this game for the first time, I didn't fully understand what was going on, but I felt the game was respecting my intelligence, if that makes sense. Kids know when they're being patronised and pandered to, and Super Mario Galaxy respects players of all ages, young and old, through its cinematic moments. Galaxy is blowing you away with bombast one moment, and in the next making you feel like an insignificant, lonely speck in the universe. When Mario flies with a launch star, it feels freeing. When he lands on Beach Bowl, we feel joy as the tropical music kicks in. If he were to land on Battlerock, we'd feel an ominous sense of dread. Were he to land on Space Junk, we might feel overwhelmed at the emptiness of space. Super Mario Galaxy emits emotion through wondrous visual design. Be it the lighting of the location, the position of the camera, lens flares, filters, the camera angle or movements, or the integration of particle effects, Mario Galaxy is a lesson in excellent cinematography in games. Super Mario Galaxy is unique, a cinematic masterpiece, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Super Mario Galaxy's presentation is as AAA as it gets. Nothing encapsulates this more than Koji Kondo and Mahito Yokota's triumphant soundtrack. Breaking down the music of Mario Galaxy could fill a feature-length film, so I have limited myself to 10 of the most iconic pieces. I have carefully curated these 10 pieces from Super Mario Galaxy's soundtrack that I feel encapsulate the atmosphere Kondo and Yokota tried to create. And where better to start than with Kondo's original pitch to Miyamoto, one of the greatest first-level themes of all time, Good Egg Galaxy. Silence. Mario soars through the air, with only the whooshing sound of the air to accompany him. Then Good Egg Galaxy comes into view, and just as Mario touches down, a triumphant chorus of brass announce your arrival. Mario has just arrived. Your adventure begins now. Then the brass die down and the strings begin to play at a comparatively quiet pitch as the percussion punctuates the beginning of the stringed melody. You can feel the music slowly building up before the strings conclude their melody with a scale plucked beautifully by a harp. Then the woodwind is introduced, and suddenly the piece begins to sound wistful. Space isn't all about bombast, but rather a wistful loneliness. At 47 seconds, the strings begin to reintroduce themselves, and we hear the music building up to a great crescendo with the percussion punctuating each beat. Before 56 seconds, the music hits at its apex and this piece is the distillation of majestic beauty, easily one of the greatest first-level themes of all time. It sets the tone for the adventure, an adventure filled with bombast, grandeur, but also a wistful loneliness, and despite that oxymoron, sheer beauty. This is Koji Kondo at his best. This is going somewhat off topic, but this song reminds me of better days. For work experience, I went back to the primary school I attended as a kid. When I walked through the halls, I noticed how low the roof was, how small the chairs were, how I recognized nobody. And everything just felt so sad. But that's okay. Be not sad that it's over, but happy that it happened. Luma's theme reminds me of better days. The piano melody begins, and all of a sudden you feel this sense of longing. The lack of bombast is jarring. It's just you and the piano and the electronic arpeggios. And that's everything. It's melancholy and lonely and atmospheric. It encapsulates the emptiness of space in just a few short refrains. It is quiet and sad, but it is quintessentially Galaxy. Space Junk reminds me of times when I was comfortable in my own company, not afraid to be alone. Comet Observatory 1 is childlike and whimsical. The woodwind lends an infantile feel to the song, with the piano refrain gently telling you that even if things seem bleak, you'll always be welcome. Comet Observatory 2 opens with a gradual string crescendo before a harp strums a scale to mark its peak. Now the beat is punctuated by a double bass and what I believe to be an oboe, in a manner that is very vivace or lively. This lends belief that no matter what, life does go on. You as the protagonist are restoring life to a home once thought of as desolate and lonely. Finally, Comet Observatory 3 is triumphant, symphonic and orchestral. It is beautiful, it's magnificent. You have restored this home completely, changed the lives of your companions for the better, and your mission is nearing completion. If the first iteration of this song was someone rubbing you on the shoulder, letting you know that things will get better, then this arrangement is a triumphant pat on the back. You've earned it. The strings are introduced immediately, signifying that this is go time. The mission starts now. Percussion slowly builds as the music softens, turning electronic. With the strings slowly being reintroduced before an almighty crescendo, and then brass play majestically before all coalescing into one grand, regal chorus. This music is telling you that it's now or it's never. It is operatic, it exudes grandeur, and it is nothing short of magnificent. It sets the tone for a nail-biting, intense venture into unknown territory. The strings play a sinister beat, punctuating each beat with accentato. Then the percussion is introduced and you feel insignificant in the face of a daunting challenge. The strings find themselves in full, beautiful flow. The brass triumphantly joins as all members of the orchestra coalesce into one grand collective. This piece transmits to the player the danger that they are facing into, as such making the player feel like they are a force of nature. This music instills a sense of fear, but you fight through that fear, turning the music instead into an orchestral chorus egging you on, daring you to dare further. To the gateway plays in the invisible tutorial that is the game's first planetoid. You've just been separated from everyone and everything you hold dear, and you're alone in an unfamiliar setting. This piece transmits to the player the sheer tragedy of the situation and the bleak reality that you may never see your loved one again. You are truly alone, and this piece lets you know. This is one of my favourite tracks in the entire soundtrack. Percussion is crucial throughout this piece, placing emphasis on each beat, what I believe to be glockenspiels sprinkle notes throughout before introducing themselves into the chorus. A guitar plucks away in the background. This entire song emits this workman-like feeling, the same feeling a song like Rico Harbor exudes. This song is telling you that here, we like to get shit done and we get it done right. I'm simply going to name drop while refusing to play the bunny catching theme, rolling ball theme, or manta ray theme here. I'd rather not be affiliated in manslaughter. I just thought it'd be important to mention that, much like their respective levels, these songs are really fucking annoying. So I guess they did their job then. It would be considered a crime against humanity not to talk about Gusty Garden Galaxy, a piece many believe is the best in the entire game. And they'd be fucking right. This piece encapsulates the grandeur of Mario's adventure. It captures the childlike wonder and awe felt by the player as they explore the solar system. It is awe-inspiring, operatic and majestic. When it hits you, it hits hard. There is no other track quite like Gusty Garden in Super Mario Galaxy, or in video games in general. Beauty and whimsy encapsulated, and a microcosm of the game itself. This piece resonates with me. I don't quite know why. It's deeply atmospheric, quiet and almost chilling. When I hear this piece, I'm reminded of a simpler time when the most stressful thing I had on my mind was what cereal I'd have for breakfast that morning. Makes me long for the innocence of childhood. It's equal parts beautiful, moving and sad. With that, I conclude this chapter on the music of Mario Galaxy. I could wax lyrical about the soundtrack for hours, but I have deliberately limited myself to the few pieces I feel encapsulate the entire experience. I hope I don't come off as too pretentious, but the soundtrack of Galaxy is simply masterful. There is so much emotion conveyed through the music, so many hidden, invisible words spoken through the mouths of the orchestra. It is nothing short of beauty in its purest form. In doing research of this video, I naturally ended up looking at a lot of Super Mario's renders, specifically that of 64 Sunshine, the N64 and GameCube Mario Karts, parties and sports games. What I found most interesting was that Mario was often illustrated as a fun-loving, plump, jolly Santa Claus-esque character. Contrast that to this render of Mario from Super Mario Galaxy. Fittingly for a game with a more melodramatic, serious tone, Mario looks lean and mean. He looks like he spends more time in the gym rather than at the pizza parlor. In 64, Sunshine and Odyssey, Mario looks jolly. In Galaxy, Mario looks like he fucking means it when he says to pay the fuck up or he'll pop a cap in your head. Mario looks like he means business. Galaxy's predecessor, Sunshine, painted Bowser as a big, dumb goof. I mean, I know you've heard this line a million times because it is absolutely iconic, but listen to this.
Mario, how dare you disturb my family vacation?
It's just, in a word, goofy. Bowser in Galaxy looks like he keeps his victims' heads and hangs them on his wall. Then there's the lighting. In Galaxy, many of the skyboxes are this deep, outer space, midnight blue, giving everything a witching hour feeling. It's somber and somewhat lonely. Sunshine was bright and vibrant and colourful. Galaxy is more ominous and restrained with its choice of colours. The red on Mario's outfit is not the bright, cartoony, childlike bright red of 64 and Sunshine, but rather a regal red. His dungarees aren't bright blue, rather a midnight blue. What many forget is that this is the first time many of these famous Super Mario characters have been rendered in a non-polygonal 3D format. Characters like Goomba, Koopa or Bullet Bill all skipped Sunshine and are back in Galaxy. They all look faithful to the source material, but with a sinister kind of twist. Bullet Bills look like genuinely threatening homing missiles, rather than cartoonishly animated pellets. Colours are rarely presented in their most vibrant form, but they aren't washed out either. I suppose the best way to describe the colours of Galaxy would be to call them regal. The shading, choice of colours and lighting effects still hold up today. Galaxy in the 3D All-Stars collection competes with Odyssey in regards to the best looking 3D platformer of all time, and it's approaching its 15th birthday. Good artistic direction trumps sheer graphical prowess every day of the week. That's why Wind Waker is one of the best looking games of all time, and it came out on the GameCube. In spite of all of Cyberpunk 2077's ray tracing technology, I actually find Super Mario Galaxy's visuals more appealing, more soft on the eye. Each stage is meticulously designed so as to feel like they are all in different solar systems, because, well, they are. In a game like New Super or 3D World, having differing level themes is just gamey. In Galaxy, it's contextually sound and is appreciated, seeing as each planet takes place on, well, a different planet. Aesthetic design in Galaxy rivals Odyssey and in some instances surpasses Odyssey. While Odyssey is excellent eye candy, its lack of theme hurts it a little. While I understand that the theme of Odyssey is quite literally its lack of a theme, Super Mario Galaxy's consistent theme and aesthetics mean more in regards to immersive values. The more sense it makes, the more I am immersed, and Galaxy's aesthetics just all make sense in context. Tone, setting, and aesthetics all match, and that makes for a game big on immersion. Mario Galaxy's presentation is a spider's web of cinematography, aesthetic design, sound design, and music, all sewn together by that all-important contextual logic. Each part on its own is worth a sum total of nil, but when sewn together by Galaxy's contextual logic, they become more than the sum of their parts. Galaxy becomes more than a game with good aesthetics. Galaxy becomes more than a game with excellent music. Galaxy becomes more than a game with staggering cinematography. No, Galaxy becomes more than a game, attaining the status of an unmissable audio-visual experience, all thanks to the contextual logic the team strictly adhere to. This experience in its totality attains this immersive quality few games can. All it takes for a structure to fall is one unsteady pillar, but each of Galaxy's core pillars are crafted with reinforced steel. As such, the structure in totality is atmospheric and immersive, and I absolutely adore it. Nintendo EAD created more than a game. They created a place, a parallel universe to escape to. Their achievement is nothing short of magnificent. In my upcoming Final Fantasy VII Remake retrospective, I speak about how these days, labeling video games as games is somewhat oxymoronic. There are very few games where every moment of a game is spent playing the game. I draw upon the examples of Red Dead Redemption 2, a masterpiece, but a masterpiece that restricts your ability to actually play. In Red Dead 2, you spend a lot of time listening, talking, walking, or riding from A to B. There's not a lot of game to play, but rather an experience to experience. Final Fantasy VII Remake is one of my favourite games of all time, but a large portion of that game is spent just soaking in the scenery, atmosphere, and cinematic grandeur. Games began as toys on the TV and have now become interactive movies. Even games like Spider-Man PS4, where every swing through the streets is full of inertia, there is a lot of downtime. Now, downtime is not exactly a bad thing. Downtime is what makes the uptime that much more exciting. The difficulty is in pacing your game so that the breaks between set pieces don't drag. In Super Mario Odyssey, the latest Super Mario, every individual moment spent playing the game is spent playing. Each second is joyous. Each nanosecond spent controlling Mario makes you feel free. Odyssey is a prime example of how to pace a game well. Via How Long to Beat, Super Mario Odyssey takes, on average from 4.2 thousand players, 63.5 hours to beat. If we divide all 999 power moons by 63.5 hours, we get 1 power moon every 0.0635 of an hour. If we divide that by 100, then multiply it by 60, we see that Mario collects a power moon on average every 4 minutes. This is what makes Mario Odyssey so addictive. A new collectible is constantly around the corner. This isn't even counting purple coins, a collectible scattered throughout every nook and cranny. But this is also what breaks Mario Odyssey for some people. I firmly believe that each power moon is satisfying to collect, but the fact that you can pick one up every 4 minutes dilutes their value to others. Joseph Anderson said it best in his excellent critique of Odyssey. For many people, this devalues power moons. Mario is not often divisive. Bar Sunshine, gaming's Mickey Mouse is rarely controversial. And yet Odyssey's power moon system is vilified by one half and praised by both I and many others. Clearly there is a balance to be struck. Make power moons rare enough to be valuable, but common enough to encourage exploration and to keep the pace up. I thought Nintendo had struck that balance, but many people disagree and it has forced me to reassess. It is unanimous, however, that Nintendo masterfully struck that balance in Galaxy. Many will say I'm comparing apples to oranges when comparing Odyssey to Galaxy, and they'd be right. Odyssey is an exploration game with platforming elements, whereas Galaxy is a platforming game with exploration elements. Bear this in mind throughout this comparison. A completionist's playthrough of Super Mario Galaxy via How Long to Beat can range between 24.5 hours rushed to 60 hours leisurely played. The average of these two figures is 42.25 hours or 42 hours and 15 minutes. There are in total 120 stars in Super Mario Galaxy, and there are no extra collectibles like Sunshine's blue coins or Odyssey's purple coins. If we divide 42.25 hours by 120, we see that on average, a player collects a star every 0.35 of an hour, which once again divided by 100 and multiplied by 60 gives us 21 minutes. I did the exact same math to calculate how long it takes to get a star on average using my own times, and I got around 1 star every 13 minutes. I'm familiar with the game, so the fact that I can find stars faster than a newbie makes sense. Using a non-completionist's 60-star playthrough via How Long to Beat, you collect a star every quarter of an hour or 15 minutes. Then I got the average of these three averages, which was 16 minutes and 20 seconds. So to summarize, on average you collect a star every 16 minutes and 20 seconds in Super Mario Galaxy. As a reminder, that figure is 4 minutes in Super Mario Odyssey. If you think that stars felt more valuable, more rare, more exciting to collect than moons, that's because they are more rare, valuable, and exciting. Each individual level is a bite-sized adventure, with a valuable treasure waiting for you at the end. The game is suitable for short play sessions and has an addictive quality that can have you glued to the screen for hours. The game slows down just long enough to make those peaks that much higher. Mario Odyssey is a roller coaster ride that shoots vertically downwards at all times, and as such, for some people, it's almost as if it's not going down at all. If everyone is rich, then no one is. Galaxy is more traditional, with high peaks and low, melancholy lows. Every individual star in Galaxy takes a new idea and runs with it, meaning that every 15 minutes the game switches gear. Galaxy is relentless. Just as soon as you've had enough of one idea, they throw the next one at you at 100 miles an hour. In the exact same solar system, you could be blasting through Battlerock Galaxy with the orchestra exuding grandeur, and 15 minutes later you're all alone with the quiet sadness of Space Junk Galaxy. It's jarring, but not in a bad way. It's not jarring in the same way as getting a slap in the face is, but rather the way a cold shower in the morning is. It's extremely profound, effective, and eye-opening. Every quarter of an hour means a brand new idea, a new way to platform, a new piece to listen to. It's this relentless roller coaster ride of emotions from start to finish. Galaxy motivates you to keep playing, to find out what's around the next corner, what the next galactic theme will be. In the same solar system, you fly between a planet based around the Maple Leaf, a massive daunting warship, a threatening molten lava star, and a quiet atmospheric water planet. If you were to get 1 star in each of these different galaxies, you'd be going through 4 distinct different themes, pieces, and platforming mechanics in 1 hour. And that's without considering how each stage's 2nd, 3rd, or 4th star reinvents the mechanic of the first. Take Freeze Flame for example. The 1st star is set in frozen tundra, the 2nd in a lava-filled hellscape, and the 3rd in a mind-bending combination of the two. Contributing to this motivation is the drip feed of the narrative. Bowser's plan is slowly unraveled, as is Rosalina's backstory, and as is the subplot of Bowser Jr. trying his best to impress his father. I almost feel bad for beating Jr. Clearly all he wants is his dad to be proud of him. Galaxy is a lesson in top-tier pacing. It reinvents itself every 15 minutes, egging you on, motivating you to get just one more star to see what's next. It disguises its planets in the galaxy select screen as homogeneous stars, but when you collect enough stars, a mini diorama of the galaxy is revealed. This adds to the intrigue. You never know what's coming next. All you do know is that whatever it is, it's going to be pretty fucking cool. If there was one thing Sunshine most certainly got right, it was the sublime movement mechanics. Mario was a pebble and the GameCube controller was your slingshot. Mario could turn on a dime, flip any direction necessary and sling all of his moves together to cross wide chasms or jump over the tallest of obstacles. This was perfect for the game Sunshine was, a sandbox exploration platformer. In a sandbox game, you want to give your player the tools to run wild, and that's exactly what EAD did with Sunshine. The sheer amount of movement potential in Sunshine is staggering. However, where Sunshine falls flat is when it comes to precise pinpoint platforming. Mario's top speed is lightning quick and its acceleration is rapid, going from standstill to full speed in nanoseconds. This makes for fun, fast and versatile movement in a sandbox, but can become a nightmare for precise platforming gauntlets. The Flood jetpack offsets this. It allows you to hover and course correct mistimed jumps. There are sections in Sunshine, however, where the FLUDD is stripped away. You have to rely solely on your platforming skills and Super Mario know-how to progress. These FLUDDless platforming gauntlets are a lot like Galaxy's regular stages, and as such gives us an excellent barometer from which to judge each game's movement. When in a linear, precise, FLUDDless gauntlet, Super Mario Sunshine struggles. Mario's turns are too fast, his jumps vary in their predictability, and he has this slippery quality that works in a sandbox, but not in a gauntlet. While I'd argue Sunshine's movement is the most fun that movement has ever been in a Mario, these gauntlets illustrate exactly how unsuited its movement is to a precise platformer. Galaxy looked at Sunshine's FLUDDless gauntlets and said, okay, let's do this, except better. On the surface, Galaxy's movement feels really pared down compared to the freedom of Sunshine. Mario's turning is slower, his overall speed has been turned down several notches, and his acceleration isn't as unpredictable. He retains his sideways somersault, backflip and triple jump, but loses the momentum-based dive, replaced instead with the spin attack. This spin attack halts momentum both in the air and on the ground, but does provide some extra height and airtime if timed correctly. This adds a layer of accessibility to platforming. FLUDD was Sunshine's failsafe, the spin is Galaxy's. Galaxy's obstacle courses are far more engaging than Sunshine's. With Sunshine you often feel as if it was the game's fault you died. That is a cardinal sin in game design. In Galaxy, because movement is so predictable, you never feel hoodwinked by the game. Movement is natural, it feels second nature. It's not snail-like, but it's not race car quick either. It's the perfect balance. For a game set in outer space, Mario's movement in Galaxy is more realistic and predictable than ever. This isn't to say it's been homogenized. All one needs to do is watch a speedrun to see the incredible feats of gymnastics that can be performed using this moveset. Super Mario 3D World is an example of a moveset being homogenized. That game can be completed in its entirety using solely the regular A button jump. There's no reason to ever use any of Mario's moves, bar run and jump. Not so in Galaxy. Galaxy sits in the happy medium between 3D World's homogenized moveset and Sunshine's slingshot style mechanics. If Galaxy were a sandbox game, it would probably make for a dull affair, but it isn't. It's a course-clear obstacle course game with exploration elements. There isn't a focus on creating a fun sandbox like Sunshine or Odyssey. It's a linear affair with exploration elements, and its moveset is simply perfect for its own content. You can't discuss the controls of Super Mario Galaxy without touching on the controversy of its motion controls. Originally, the game was released on the Wii and required a Wii remote and nunchuck to play. No other control methods were allowed. To spin, one would have to shake the Wii Remote. To collect star bits, a new collectible added to the game to keep the player busy during cinematic flying segments, one would have to point the Wii Remote pointer at the screen and swipe at the star bits. This isn't as egregious as things get when it comes to motion controls. Games like Skyward Sword were built entirely around motion controls, meaning those that physically could not perform the physical feats Skyward Sword demanded simply could not play the game. Mario Galaxy wasn't structured around the idea of motion controls, rather they were added as an afterthought one might initially presume as harmless. Upon closer inspection, however, Mario Galaxy is very inaccessible. Let's say you sprained your wrist. Now you can't play the game. Anyone with reduced or impaired physical ability simply cannot play this game. Nintendo sought to fix this when they re-released the game in 2020 via the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. There were a couple of problems with this. First of all, the game can't even be bought anymore. Your best shot at getting this game is second-hand as it's been digitally delisted and Nintendo aren't shipping out new copies anymore. It's been this way since March 31st of 2021. So if you happen to be born in April of 2021, first of all, welcome to this hellscape shithole of a planet we call Earth. If you look to your right, you can see a global pandemic decimating and deteriorating society's mental health, and if you look to your left, you can see a couple dozen forest fires because we're cooking our planet alive. But second of all, and more importantly, unlucky. You can't own Super Mario Galaxy in its most physically accessible form, because Nintendo almost did a really good job making the game as accessible as possible. If you play with the Switch docked, the spin is mapped to a button, so waggle is unnecessary. This makes the game actually playable for a vast portion of our population. They unfortunately did not map the star bit pointer to the right stick, or any other button for that matter, so that's still a problem. Not to mention the couple stars that simply require motion controls, such as the Sling Pods, Sling Stars, or Rolling Ball minigame. It's an objective fact that getting 100% completion in Mario Galaxy will be physically impossible for some people, and that's a damn shame. It's disappointing that Nintendo seemingly forgot about making the game accessible for people with disabilities. In handheld mode, things fare a little bit worse. The spin is again mapped to a button, but star bits can only be collected using the touchscreen, meaning you have to constantly shift your right hand from the buttons to the touchscreen. The most physically accessible way, and in my subjective opinion the best way to play Galaxy, is in docked mode on the Switch. It really is a shame then that you can't buy it anymore. It is a simple fact that Galaxy's reliance on motion control simply makes it inaccessible for a portion of the population. This is, quite frankly, unfair. I don't mind the waggle, in fact it feels quite natural to shake the remote to spin, and it's become second nature to collect star bits with the pointer. It's a really fantastic implementation of motion control, for those who can experience it. For everyone else, it just sucks that they can't play it. And the solution was oh so simple. 3D All-Stars should never have been delisted, and the pointer should have been mapped to a button. Perhaps the pointer is activated when holding the right trigger and is then moved by the right stick. All said, Super Mario Galaxy is a game with excellent controls for those of us who can take advantage of them. It just sucks that not everybody can. Do you remember how much I praised Galaxy for being contextually logical? Well, there is one chink in its contextual armor, a chink that doesn't quite ruin the immersion, but certainly could have been implemented far better, and was implemented far better in its sequel. I am, of course, talking about the infamous Comet missions. So the story goes that when a particular comet passes through the solar system, it has the effect of creating a new, remixed mission that you already did. I know this game is about an Italian plumber crawling on bees in space, but that actually makes contextual logic. This does not. If the stars are scattered through the universe because of Bowser, why on earth would a star you've already collected respawn, except this time with a tougher challenge attached to it? It doesn't make contextual sense, and the game never explains it. I would propose that seeing as every Comet challenge involves the star reappearing temporarily and brings all enemies back to life, that each Comet would function as Galaxy's Blood Moon, for example. In Breath of the Wild, the Blood Moon was the contextual logic to reload all of the enemies so that the game could keep a more stable performance and so that the player wouldn't kill everything and get bored. So here's my suggested headcanon. For example, sometimes the Comet would spawn an alien that can take the form of anything it desires. in this case a Cosmic Mario. This alien would be after the power of the star, so you race it to get it. In the case of a Daredevil run, the Comet could possibly power up enemies, or in the case of the fast foe comets, speed up enemies. Or combined with the power of the Power Star, cause the planet to implode if you don't get to the star in time. It's like in the speedrun comets. This solution isn't perfect, but to give any contextual logic is better than none, so that's my headcanon for now. My second gripe is Galaxy's odd way of handling tutorials. Every time you reach a power-up for the first time, the game pauses and zooms in to tell you exactly how to use it. They don't give you every detail, however, and leave some elements of the power-up out of the tutorial for you to learn about. Galaxy has invisible tutorials like this ice power-up on the fountain, or like these bunnies doing the spin jump and walls placed on either side intuiting a wall jump. There are so many invisible tutorials that it makes me wonder why have any visible tutorials in the first place. Perhaps the only tutorial I'd leave in Galaxy is the one you get when you get the power of the Luma for the first time, teaching you that a shake equals a spin move. Apart from that, the team have done such a great job at creating invisible tutorials that there's no point having any visible tutorials at all. And on the subject of power-ups, why have any in the first place? They're quite lackluster. Take the Fire Flower for instance. It can be used to break these snowmen and light lanterns. In Melty Molten Galaxy, there's a really interesting mechanic where you have to lead a fiery rock creature towards a lamp to light it. Why not have a variation of this instead of using a Fire Flower? Why not just let your spin break the snowman like every other breakable object in the game? Then there's the Ghost power-up. This is used in 3 different levels, and in each it is completely useless, acting solely as a way to travel transparently between very specific walls. The power-up is superfluous. On the stage where you use a boo to race another boo, you might as well have just got rid of the boo power-up and set the level underwater, making the challenge be for Mario to swim downwards, spinning when necessary to break crates blocking the way, rather than shaking to transparently float through them. Same result. The B power-up is quite cool as it lets you fly, but you can get more height with a backflip followed by a spin jump. There is one cool bullet hell-like level where you climb on honeycombs. The Galaxy team did a good job on this level, rendering this power-up actually quite useful. Nonetheless, they could have just given regular Mario the ability to cling onto honey and we could still have had the same level. Spring Mario and Ice Mario are both well-utilised power-ups. They are utilised well in a variety of different stages. I have no complaints about either. Spring Mario is great because you suddenly have incredible limitations in your movement. This means the player must get creative with their platforming. Restrictions breed creativity, and the Spring power-up does exactly that. The Ice Flower is, if you will pardon the pun, cool. Creating walkable platforms on water and lava leads to some really unique puzzles, like the one where you lead a cataquack across the water. Well-utilised power-up. Then there's the Red Star, the best power-up in the game. It gives Mario the ability to fly in any direction, like the wing cap, except far better. This is a great power-up, but because this is a platformer and flying would break the game, you can only use it in the hub. In Galaxy 2, there are stages where you use a bird to fly through rings. I feel like the Red Star could have been used in a similar manner to this to great effect. It would have made for some excellent levels. Sadly, it has been relegated to just a cool way to traverse the hub. Now, I don't mean to say that the superfluous power-ups should be removed. Rather, they should be revamped and made actually useful. If the power-up does something that regular Mario can already or could possibly do or do better, then it's nothing more than an alternative outfit and a waste of time. Too many power-ups in Galaxy are simply cool outfits and nothing more. What if, for example, Fire Mario could swim in lava, meaning you have to swim through lava before your power-up runs out? The Honeybee could have been revamped, perhaps keeping the stamina meter, but when that runs out, you can glide like the Tanuki or Acorn, allowing for more traversal options. Perhaps Honeybee Mario could traverse through honey without getting his feet stuck. Maybe change the honey to be like sinking sand so that regular Mario can't traverse through the honey at all. What's more, perhaps Honeybee Mario's stamina gauge could be refilled mid-air should you grab another bee mushroom, creating the potential for flying and gliding gauntlets where you need to manage your stamina. The problem with Boo Mario itself is not the concept, but rather the implementation. There is one level where it is utilised well, the level where you can choose between it and the bee. This is an excellent level. It plays on the fact that Boo Mario can't travel through light, so touching light means falling into sinking sand and experiencing instant death. But it is a damning indictment of the power-up that you don't even have to use it. You can just choose the other power-up and ignore the Boo route altogether. Super Mario Galaxy's power-ups are great ideas for power-ups, but they are not implemented in nearly as creative a way as they are in its sequel, Galaxy 2. Galaxy 2 has excellent power-ups and excellent obstacle courses that make the absolute most of them. I'd like to add that 1-ups are useless collectibles. Your lives reset every time you restart the game, so what's the point in collecting loads of them? Answer: there are no reasons. End of paragraph. And for my final complaint, the most damning indictment on Galaxy, the one thing that nearly ruins the game, the one level that nearly crumbles the entirety of Galaxy's meticulously designed structure. This fucking bunny level. Fuck this level. And fuck the music in it too. Fuck it all. In this, the penultimate chapter, I thought I'd add a couple of commendations I couldn't fit into the other chapters. These are fantastic little touches the dev team added into Super Mario Galaxy. I love the 120 star prize. When I saw that my friend had Luigi on his save file, it blew my mind. As a kid, I then made it my mission to unlock Luigi on my file at home, and when I did, it was magical. This is an excellent 100% reward. And on the subject of 100% rewards, the 200% reward is just as good. If you get all 120 stars as Luigi, you get to travel back to the Mushroom Kingdom on the night of the Star Festival. I love this for the same reason I love driving into Peach's Castle in Mario Kart 64. It's just cool to revisit an iconic location. Despite the fact that it's a linear march to the castle and that's that, I used to roleplay in my mind that Mario was coming home to visit his friends. There's a nostalgic feeling attached to coming back to the opening area, this time without any of the destruction Bowser caused in the opening. It's just a lovely touch by the developers. Like I mentioned earlier, I love that when you talk to an NPC, the screen goes into letterbox format. That's really just an absolutely fantastic touch. The starbit collecting, once you get good at it, is immensely satisfying. The sound effect that plays when you collect a starbit just sets off fireworks in my brain. Multiply those fireworks by thousands when you see a massive bundle of them all together. Great addition and makes otherwise mundane cutscenes very fun. You're always playing the game, doing some task or another, and it's great. Finally, Super Mario Galaxy introduces a variety of new races like the honeybees and Lumas, and brings back old races like the penguins from Mario 64. Having unique races inhabiting different planets is an excellent touch that just really lends to the all-important immersion. The team were clearly allowed to flex their creative muscles by creating excellent unique characters. Captain Toad, for example, a mainstay of today's Super Mario cast, got his start in Galaxy. Rosalina also got her start in Galaxy, and she shows up to this day in the sports spin-offs. It's easy to take it for granted now, but Galaxy invented and reinvented so many characters that still stick around to this day. It truly is a testament to the character design team that their designs are still popping up in Mario spin-offs to this day. The Lumas are an instigating plot factor in the latest Mario and Rabbids, for crying out loud. It isn't often that characters get added to the ever-rotating cast of Mario characters in their spin-offs, but Galaxy's Queen Bee, Captain Toad, Luma, Rosalina, and more return to this day. Commendable job from the character design team. Super Mario Galaxy is more than just a game. There are good games, there are great games, there are masterpieces, and then there are the firework experiences. There are certain games out there that just set fireworks off in your brain, and Super Mario Galaxy sets off fireworks in my brain. It is a remarkable feat of atmospheric design. It is a lesson to video games on contextual logic. It is a score so masterfully composed that it has ruined video game music for me. Its visuals are timeless, its character designs are exceptional, and its lighting rivals the ray tracing of modern day AAA games. Sound effects are out of this world. Controls are perfectly tuned, just snappy enough to be fun, but not too slippery as to make platforming an exercise in patience. There are very few games that one could call perfect. Perhaps Tetris, but that's a boring answer. See, perfection is normally boring. You can very easily make a perfect game. Cookie Clicker is a perfect game. Flappy Bird is a perfect game. Tetris is a perfect game. They are all incredibly fun and they achieve absolutely everything they try to do with complete and utter perfection. That said, is Tetris really trying to do as much as Final Fantasy VII Remake? I love Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it isn't a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. I adore Skyrim, but it isn't perfect either. Breath of the Wild is one of my fireworks in my brain games, and that still has flaws. I suppose what I'm trying to say in a manner lacking in brevity is that it's easier to build a perfect bungalow than it is to build a perfect skyscraper. If you build a perfect bungalow, you are an incredible architect. You have achieved perfection in your field, something few people will ever achieve. You are special. But imagine if you could build a perfect skyscraper. Super Mario Galaxy is a perfect skyscraper. It is a complex game with mechanics that weave in and out of each other, creating a unique, awe-inspiring experience. It's hard to make an ambitious game perfect, but this is the closest you can get. Bar accessibility issues, Mario Galaxy is a masterclass in video game design and will doubtlessly go down in history as the greatest in its own subgenre. I definitely like some games more than Super Mario Galaxy, but if you ask me, Super Mario Galaxy is, quite possibly, the greatest achievement in video game history. It is more than just a game. It is an experience.